The question of whether human beings could photosynthesize has been a popular thought experiment for biologists for decades. Nobody published a definitive paper on it because it would take you about an afternoon with a calculator to find out you'd starve. The question was simple. If you took a normal person, gave them perfectly green skin packed with the same chloroplasts a leaf has, and parked them outside in the brightest noon sun on the brightest day of the year, could they survive on sunlight alone? The answer is no. The answer is, in fact, no in a way that is mathematically embarrassing. You would starve. You would starve fast. And the reason you would starve is not because human biology is bad, or because chloroplasts are weak. Chloroplasts are amazing. You would starve because the surface area of your skin is, for an animal your size, almost laughably small, relative to the energy you burn just being alive. This is the math. There's something deeply appealing about the idea of photosynthesis. You don't have to eat. You don't have to cook. You don't have to do dishes. You just sit in the sun and you are full. No grocery store. No meal prep. No 3 p.m. stomach growl. Just photons. This fantasy has shown up in basically every soft sci-fi book ever written about utopian futures. And almost every time, the books just hand-wave the biology. We engineered photosynthesis into humans. Now we don't eat. Moving on. The actual biology is way too rude to allow this. Let's start with what you actually need to keep being a human. Your body. Just sitting there, doing nothing. Heart beating, brain ticking, liver detoxing your last drink, burns about 100 watts. That's a basal metabolic rate of around 1,500 calories a day, with another 500 to 1,000 on top from moving around. You are a light bulb. If you walk around, you go up to maybe 300 watts. If you run, 600 or 700. If you climb stairs, briefly, even higher. Across a full day, the average human burns through somewhere around 2,000 to 2,500 kilocalories. Roughly 100 watts on average, sustained, 24 hours a day. That's the budget you'd need to cover. Okay, now let's count the sunlight. At noon, on a perfectly clear day, the sun delivers about 1,000 watts of energy per square meter of surface. That's the absolute peak! A human skin surface, total, is around 1.7 square meters. But you can't catch sunlight on all of it. Most of your body faces sideways, downward, or into shadow. The actual sun-facing silhouette of a standing human at noon, the shadow you cast, is closer to half a square meter. Head and shoulders, basically. So the absolute maximum sunlight you could intercept at noon, on a clear day, standing still, is about 500 watts. That's already getting tight. You need 100 just for resting metabolism. So even at the peak, you only have 500-ish to work with. Plenty? No. Photosynthesis is not free. The chloroplasts inside a leaf convert sunlight to chemical energy with a theoretical max efficiency around 11%, a practical max of about 5%, and most real-world crops actually average closer to 1 or 2% over a season. Most of the sunlight a plant catches gets reflected, transmitted, or lost as heat. Only that tiny fraction actually becomes usable energy. So if you're standing in noon sun, catching 500 watts on your sun-facing silhouette, and converting it with real-world photosynthesis at maybe 2%, you net 10 watts. Your body needs 100 watts just to sit still. You're netting 10. You are, right now, at noon, on the brightest day of the year, running a 90% deficit. And that's just the peak. The sun isn't out for 24 hours. Average it over a full day-night cycle, and you're catching about 15% of peak. Net daily usable, under 2 watts. You need 100. You get 2. You are, mathematically, starving from minute 1. You might reasonably ask, well, trees do it, plants do it, Why does it work for them? Two reasons. 1. Trees are mostly surface area, with almost no volume. A maple tree might have 100 square meters of leaf area on a body that weighs a few hundred kilograms. That's a crazy ratio. You are the opposite. You are mostly volume. Meat, bone, organs, blood. And you have a tiny envelope of skin wrapped around it. 2. Trees barely do anything. A maple tree at rest burns vanishingly little energy. It's not running a heart, a brain, a digestive system. It's not running. It is exactly as active as you, the viewer, at 3 p.m. on a Sunday. Animals run hot. Animals move. Animals think. All of that costs energy, which means animals need food. There is one weird animal that sort of photosynthesizes. A spotted salamander species in North America has green algae living inside its embryonic cells. But that's at the embryo stage, when the salamander is the size of a pea and basically not doing anything. Adult salamanders go back to eating bugs like respectable amphibians. There's also the famous leaf sea slug, Elysia chlorotica, that eats algae and steals the chloroplasts, embedding them in its own tissue. It can then survive for months without feeding. Newer experiments suggest it survives nearly as well in the dark, so the chloroplasts may not be the whole story, but it's still a wild trick. It's also the size of a postage stamp and moves about 6 inches per hour. The surface area to volume ratio works because it's tiny and it does nothing. If you scaled this animal up to human size, it would also starve. Here's the actually interesting bit, underneath all the math. The reason you can't photosynthesize is the same reason you can move, think, talk, and panic about an email at midnight. You burn 100 watts because you have a brain that's eating about 20 of those watts just to keep the lights on. Your brain is one of the most metabolically expensive tissues per gram of any creature on Earth. A plant doesn't have a brain. A plant has, generously, vibes. Vibes are cheap. Animals, especially animals like us, evolved fast bodies and complicated brains because we had access to a different power source. Concentrated energy from other living things. Meat, fruit, nuts, honey, tubers. We didn't have to be enormous and flat and motionless to catch sunlight directly. We just had to find something that had already done the catching and eat it. We are, in a sense, plants with extra steps. The energy in the steak on your plate came from grass. The energy in the grass came from the sun. You are eating filtered sunlight wrapped in flavor. So the answer to what if humans could photosynthesize is essentially we'd have to give up the brain. You can have the sunshine. You can have the chloroplasts. You can have the green skin. You just can't have any of the things you currently like about being a person. You'd be a tree that used to be Steve. So the next time you complain about having to eat lunch, remember, eating lunch is the only reason you also get to have opinions, complaints, and a job that has lunch breaks. The chicken in your salad died so you could text your mom. That's the deal. Curious which other what if turns out to violate one specific law of physics in a really specific way? Subscribe. Friday's one is about something you own.